Tear it down, that rat hole is a stain on the neighborhood map. The HOA president actually screamed that over the screech of bulldozers at 5 a.m., like she was leading a cavalry charge instead of a demolition. I remember just standing there barefoot on the cold porch, watching everything my family ever built crumble under the weight of some paper-thin rule about paint color. That's how it started my house, my daughter's safe place gone because the shade of green didn't match some chart they changed overnight. But what they didn't know, what Victoria Ashford and her crew of clipboard commandos missed, was that the entire HOA water supply for their precious sheep operation ran smack through my property. And I had the only key to the whole puzzle. E2. Where are you watching from anyway? Drop a comment. Because if you've ever felt powerless against a machine bigger than you, buckle up. This is the day the pipeline bit back. I'm Jasper Whitmore Jazz to my friends, and I woke up to heavy machinery at dawn on a Tuesday in Cedar Ridge, Montana. Picture it, I'm in boxers rubbing sleep from my eyes, and there's 3 bulldozers outside like metal buzzards waiting for something to die. My 8-year-old Emma was already at the window, fascinated the way kids are with disaster. "Daddy, why are the trucks eating our house?" she asked, and I swear I had nothing that would make sense to her. Meanwhile, the workers moved like they'd rehearsed this barriers-up equipment, unloaded, not a hint of hesitation. Victoria Ashford, the HOA president, stepped out of her Mercedes like she was royalty, immaculate suit sunglasses before sunrise, and that razor-blade smile you only see in people who truly enjoy their work. She shoved a stack of fresh printed paperwork in my hands, emergency beautification protocols signed by the mayor effective today. They'd rewritten the rules at midnight to make my paint offensive, changed it by committee, while the neighborhood slept, and now they had all the paperwork to make it legal. Emma tugged my pajama leg, her voice small. "Daddy, what's happening?" All I could say was, "Sometimes grown-ups make rules that don't make sense, but we're going to figure it out." Okay, I spotted Rusty McCormick, our neighbor, shuffling across his yard in a bathrobe, face set in that grim way old men get when they see too much wrong in the world. Rusty's a retired journalist. He's seen all the tricks, all the small-town corruption, and right then he was the only one on my side. "This ain't right, Jazz boy," Rusty called. 40 years I've lived here and never seen an emergency demo go this fast. It takes longer to get a deck permit. He pointed at the pipeline markers out back. "That water line feeds Victoria's sheep ranch. Your granddaddy signed the easement in the 70s. She needs your land more than she wants to admit." My brain, wired for engineering, started piecing it together. Every gallon her operation used ran through pipes buried under my feet. When Victoria heard Rusty mention water rights, her mask slipped for half a second. She tried to brush it off. Old agreements aren't relevant to zoning violations, but her voice was tight. And I noticed the bulldozers, for all their destruction, were careful to avoid the pipeline markers. They were here to scare me, not cut off their own water. So there I was, my house coming down, my kid watching, and these people expecting me to just fold like every other homeowner they'd steamrolled. But they didn't know 3 things. I had a daughter who needed to see what standing up looks like, a neighbor who kept every secret this town's ever tried to bury, and most important, a lock on the water that kept 6,000 sheep alive. I wasn't going quietly. By noon, Rusty and I were in his kitchen, surrounded by files and strong coffee. Your granddaddy was smart, kept copies of everything. Let's dig. Down in Rusty's basement, we found the old water rights agreement signed in '74, ironclad, set to expire in 3 months, and with a clause that let me terminate the deal if the land was misused, even for unauthorized construction. There it was in black and white. And wouldn't you know, a recent survey showed Victoria had snuck in a secondary pipeline under my front porch. She'd violated the contract a dozen times over. That's when Brad Kellerman showed up, a jittery young lawyer from legal aid briefcase, clutched like treasure. "I saw the coverage," he said. "You need representation." He nearly cried with joy when he saw the documentation. "This is a gold mine. She's done this to at least 15 families in 5 years. Every time, fake violations, emergency orders, missing paperwork. She buys up the properties on the cheap and flips them for her development scheme. Sheep ranch. That's just cover for a luxury resort she's trying to piece together." And my daughter, who'd been quietly drawing sheep at the table, piped up. Mrs. Victoria was yelling on her phone about getting rid of the troublemaker before he figures out the water thing. Out of the mouths of babes comes the truth. We had evidence, motive, witnesses, It was almost too much to believe. But Victoria didn't get where she was by playing fair. Within hours, my bank accounts were frozen for suspicious activity. Emma's school called about behavior concerns, and a lawsuit landed on my doorstep for $2 million in damages. She's coming hard, I told Brad. Good. She just made her last mistake. Because she forgot I'm the one who controls the water. The war room moved to Rusty's garage, where decades-old broadcast gear became our command center. Back in my day, this was called citizen journalism, Rusty said. Now it's called going viral. We set up a live stream. I told my story holding up the water rights agreement for the world to see. Viewers poured in thousands. People shared their own HOA horror stories. And then the real bombshell, a former city clerk reached out with original HOA bylaws proving what Victoria did was flat out illegal. The stream went viral. News picked it up. Hashtags started trending. But Victoria countered with everything she had: bot attacks, online smear websites, even stories in the local paper painting me as a conspiracy nut. Emma got bullied at school. Then her tablet left recording for a school project caught Victoria's voice plain as day. Brad needs to disappear from this picture. Remind him small-town lawyers have fragile reputations. This Whitmore situation has to be resolved before he figures out that I need him more than he needs me. That was it, caught red-handed. She was terrified, desperate to protect her scheme. But she pushed too far. That weekend, Emma came home in tears. A scary man at the playground said, "If you don't stop being mean to Mrs. Victoria, bad things might happen to girls who don't listen to their daddies." That was a line too far. I called the police finally. Someone in authority took us seriously. "We've had our eye on this Victoria Ashford situation for a while now," the officer said. Validation, but also confirmation of just how deep this went. Brad came with more news. Victoria's running 3 times the recommended livestock density. Thousands of sheep crammed in, sold off to shady slaughter operations. If I cut the water, the animals would die. And that's when the real dilemma hit. I could win by turning the valve, but it'd cost the lives of creatures who never chose this fight. So we went public again. Filed formal complaints with animal welfare agencies. With evidence in hand and my finger still on the valve, we forced state regulators to act. Victoria tried to block me with restraining orders, but I'd already built a backup valve system that routed her water to a nature preserve instead. When the state ordered her to reduce the herd by 60% or face charges, the clock started ticking. On the day the pipeline shut off, cameras rolled. The sheep, confused at first, soon broke through fences, wandering into yards, swimming pools, and even a few garages. Victoria, caught on live stream in silk pajamas, chased them with a leaf blower and ended up face first in her own rose bushes. Social media exploded. Sheep lady. Falls was trending. Her luxury resort deal died. Lawsuits from families poured in. And the HOA board, in a panic, voted her out by lunchtime. Victoria called, voice shaking, "Turn the water back on. I'll do anything. Sell back the properties. Resign. Just don't let the animals suffer." For the first time, she sounded like a person. I told her, "It's already back on, routed to the preserve. The animals are safe." Because this was never about revenge, it was about justice. And justice means protecting the innocent. 3 days later, Emma found a journal buried under a floorboard, Victoria's, from when she was 12. Her family had lost their home to HOA fines just like us. Her last entry: "When I grow up, I'll make sure no one can do this to families again." She tried so hard to prevent what happened to her that she became the monster she hated. I found her at the preserve, watching the sheep she once owned. "You became what you once feared," I said, showing her the journal. We talked for hours about pain, about loss, about how good intentions can go so wrong. I offered her a job, manage the animal sanctuary we were building on her old land, no salary, just a chance at redemption. 6 months later, my house was rebuilt. Emma was bottle feeding lambs with Victoria, and the HOA had new bylaws protecting homeowners, not punishing them. Rusty grinned. Sometimes justice isn't revenge. It's a second chance. Emma's 4th grade essay, "Why My Dad Fought the Sheep Lady," won a state prize. But what mattered most was the lesson. Sometimes mercy and justice go hand in hand, And the people who seem like enemies can become the best partners for change. So let me ask you, have you ever been in a spot where showing mercy seemed impossible, but it changed everything? Or seen someone turn around because they were given another chance? Drop your story in the comments. Maybe yours is exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. If this story hit home, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more, and share it with anyone who believes second chances can change the world. Until next time, keep fighting the good fight.